Hello and welcome to 0 to 4 million, a startup's bootstraps journey to a seven-figure exit, where we track the progress of the virtual team building platform, Virtual Valley, from idea to seven-figure exit, while sharing all the dirty secrets from the trenches of a bootstrap startup. By tuning in each weekday morning, you will receive an update on Virtual Valley's progress and metrics, understand how they solved a specific startup problem, learn about one awesome tool and resource they use to solve this problem, so you could do the same in your bootstrapped startup. And now, welcome your host, Tom Hunt, founder of Virtual Valley, TEDx speaker, Dragon's Den failure, and location-independent entrepreneur.
Hello, listeners of 0 to 4 million, the podcast, the Virtual Valley podcast. Today we're joined by a lady called Sylvia. Now, Sylvia has been a user of Virtual Valley recently, and we received an email from her a couple of weeks ago saying something that made all of our hearts feel very warm and happy. And after checking Sylvia out, we checked out her business, we checked out her site, and decided that it would be awesome to get her to come on to talk a little bit about her business and how she works, and then also her experience with Virtual Valley, with the goal of sort of taking her learnings and embedding them into you. So even if you don't use Virtual Valley, you can learn about how Sylvia has used virtual assistants to basically achieve awesome results. So what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes is talk a bit about Sylvia, talk a bit about her business, how she uses Virtual Valley, and how she uses virtual assistants. Sylvia, welcome, and does that sound good to you?
That sounds fantastic. Tom, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
It's a pleasure. So if you could give us, let's try in 30 seconds, that might be a bit hard actually, maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes, an overview of you and what you're currently doing.
Yep, that sounds good. So I am the founder of SMI Financial Coaching. I help small business owners, basically become and remain profitable. I help them identify, implement, and manage practical, low-stress financial solutions so they can actually, stay in business and actually grow.
Okay, so I'm a small business owner. I'm running my small, let's say, coffee shop. Yep. I would come to you for you to advise me on how I would run my personal finances?
Actually, more I'm on the small business side. So great question, Tom. What I find is that most entrepreneurs are great at what they do, but they're not so good with the numbers. Mm-hmm. So, what I found is when you aren't good with the numbers, or you avoid them, you see many small business owners really just they pile on the debt, and they're at risk a lot of times for closing their business because they don't know how to manage their small business finances. And often I find those folks also don't know how to manage their personal finances. But really, where my heart is trying to help small business owners stay in business.
Okay.
And figure out what they're doing wrong.
Understood. This is a classic issue, right, of the small business owner who is potentially amazing at their trade. So the amazing barista who opens their own coffee shop, who may not have the marketing or, in this case, the finance skills to create an effective business.
Okay. Absolutely. That's what I find all the time. And like I said, most entrepreneurs, they're just great at what they're doing, right? And so I encourage them to look at where they're maybe potentially spending more money than they need to. A lot of times it's really either the sales numbers or the expenses that are too high.
Sure. Can you give us an example of a business that you worked with recently and the state they were in before you sort of came to speak to them, and then the changes that you made and the results?
Yeah, a great one. I can probably use one of my clients who a mix of also using some virtual assistants. So I have one small business owner. She sells products on Etsy as well as in person. And she was finding that even though her sales numbers would look really, really good one month, like she could make thousands of dollars of sales, in 1 month, but the following month she would have like a couple $100. So it was this kind of like this yo-yo effect. And she, found that even though the sales numbers were great, she just wasn't profitable. Like she, hired me and she's like, what am I doing wrong? Because, I have a lot of demand. And she, said that, some months she's making, a couple $1,000s a month, but she just couldn't figure out why she couldn't get ahead in her bank account. She looked at the numbers, and she was also working more hours than she had hoped. So we, after doing some coaching and kind of looking at our numbers, we found that one, she wasn't charging enough because she was kind of more of the premium, like of, comparing herself to competitors. She was actually doing more premium quality work. So we actually figured out that, she needed to charge a higher price to compensate for the extra time she was spending on creating a quality product. She also was trying to be the jack of all trades and trying to run everything in her business. So from being the CEO of the company as well as being the doer, so creating the actual product. And so she found herself in a situation where a lot of times she would be out of the inventory. She would have people, purchase her product online, and she didn't have her inventory management set up properly that would alert her when to reorder products or tell a customer, hey, your product's going to be slightly delayed because she didn't realize she was out of the product.
Sure.
So classic example, she told me she would, get a sale, realize that she was out of one of the materials, and she had already received the money. So she already received the money, already charged the customer a certain shipping price, and she committed to a date. Well, unfortunately, so then, her finding out that, the material was not in stock, she had to go, rush the material to herself, which she had to pay the extra fee in the shipping to herself to get to her. And then on top of that, once she had the product and had to turn around and make the product, she then had to pay extra shipping to rush it to the customer by the date that she promised. So it was a lose-lose situation, right? Like you look at, she already charged the customer, she committed to a date, but then didn't realize that she didn't have the inventory on hand. So she ended up eating all those extra costs. So one of the things that I worked with her on was telling her, you need to outsource, you need to hire an assistant, you need to hire somebody to manage some parts of your business, whether it's social media, taking some of the things off your plate. And she did. She, through our coaching, she didn't realize, I think some of it's just folks are not exposed to personal and virtual assistants. So she didn't even know where to go. She said, Sylvia, where do I go? And I gave her, Virtual Valley as
hey.
Yeah. So I said, hey, I've used Virtual Valley. They're great. So she did. She went and she interviewed some folks, and she, decided to outsource her social media as well as her inventory management, getting somebody to actually count and get her inventory management system and product numbers accurate so that she could accurately, decide whether she was going to accept an order before committing to a date, making sure she had all the inventory on hand.
Okay, awesome. And now I can imagine that slowly, or maybe even fastly, if that's a word, her sales should be moving up. But
absolutely.
Give us some numbers.
Yeah, I don't know her numbers up to date right now. She finished her coaching program with me, although she's going to hire me to do more quarterly check-ins.
Sure.
But this was amazing, where she ended up letting me know. So she was doing her business as a side hustle. She was doing this with the hopes that one day she was going to, turn it into a full-time business and she could quit her full-time job. And so we worked on her numbers, and she ended up actually getting laid off from her company, in the middle of our coaching. And she emailed me and said, I'm not stressed because after working with you and knowing, getting my small business numbers in order and helping me understand how to budget so I can get my personal finances in order, she's like, I didn't panic. She said, I had everything in order, and I was excited. So that was a huge win for me to have somebody who said, I would have completely panicked and been stressed out had I not been working.
That's amazing. I bet that's a great testimonial. Okay, so let's move away from this awesome client of yours and look actually into your business. So at what point did you decide that you needed to hire remote admin assistants?
Great question. Honestly, once I started getting clients and realizing that, I was spending a lot of time on, I want to say, the tasks that I wasn't good at, right? Like creating, I actually even have this as a case story in my recent book that I put out in November.
What's the name of the book?
Small Business Finance for the Busy Entrepreneur.
This will be linked below, everybody. Continue, Sylvia.
Yes. So I talk about how I spent hours like trying to create this customer intake form. I wanted a good way to be able to have customers, who wanted to do a consultation session with me, have them fill out some basic information so that I could come to the first session, pretty productive, right? Like having a background about where their finances are, where their sales number are, whether or not they have a budget, whether or not they have a business plan. And I ended up trying to do it on Word. And then, of course, when people fill it on Word, it's back
Yes.
and just looks sloppy, right? So I spent all this time trying to make it, pretty, trying to make it user-friendly. And I probably wasted 3 or 4 months where, I just didn't have something that I was proud of to like send to people. So I wasn't getting all the information that I needed before the sessions.
Sure.
And then I ended up hiring, I said one day, you know what, I'm going to see if I can find somebody that could create an editable PDF form for me.
Ooh.
And yes. And I was like, I can make it where, the field, that I want entered on there is not, editable, but then the fields that the customer can type directly on there and send an email it right back to me. And I found a virtual assistant on a Friday night. One of those when I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna make myself do this. I'm gonna go. I gave myself 30 minutes. 30 minutes to type up a job rec and put it out there. And I had, probably 10 or 12 people that ended up bidding right away. And one of the tricks I also do before I post a job rec, I actually look on who's available, and I actually kind of already have like 2 or 3 people that I have in mind that I want to invite to the job and apply for the job. So I had a lot of people apply, but then of the 2 people that I reached out to, one of them came back and said, yes, I'm available. I can work on this now. It was fantastic, Tom.
Awesome.
I gave him all the recs, all the requirements on a Friday night. He had a completed editable PDF to me by Sunday evening, which I was able to email out on Monday morning to a new prospect.
Sweet. But the question, how much was your well, so to understand the time investment here, you said half an hour, right? Maybe a bit more. But the financial investment in order to get that deliverable sent or created, sorry.
Yes. Well, it ended up resulting in a paid client. So, I mean, to go from $0 to, paid client was huge.
Pretty
right?
sweet. But how much did you have to pay the virtual assistant?
Gosh, that one, you know what? I think I ended up paying probably like a little less than $100.
Okay.
But that was probably more because the form that I had was
complex,
and he actually ended up having to break up some code. But had I started
really?
from scratch, it would have been easier. But I already had something that I had worked out, and he ended up having to strip some of the code. And so it was fine. I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. And it sounds okay. So to me, it sounds like a kind of no-brainer, right? There's a thing that you didn't want to do that potentially you didn't have time to do because you had like better things to do at the weekend. That you got someone
good at.
exactly.
Good at, right? Like that's the thing. It's like why I'm like struggling and pausing and not doing things that I needed to do for my business because I was trying to figure out, well, how do I teach myself how to do this? And realizing my time isn't, it's not well spent trying to figure this one thing out when I've got, a resource of, 100 applicants that could come in and just do this. And like I said, over the weekend. So.
Sure. So this is something that I really like that you mentioned there is the things that you're not good at. Now, so my question to you is, what are those things that you are good at and that you enjoy doing? And so that's the first part of the question. And the second part is, are those the things that have the biggest impact on your bottom line?
Great question. So things that I'm good at and really enjoy doing, I just love analyzing businesses and where they're at and whether or not, why they're not profitable. I actually got a prospect that called me and said he was making $1 million in sales each year, but he was not profitable. So I think that's the misnomer that a lot of people think, as long as I'm making sales, I'm doing great. I'm successful. And, this guy's telling me, I make $1 million in sales each year, but I'm not profitable. Right? So for me, I'm actually great. I'm great at thinking outside the box. I'm great at analyzing. I'm great at pushing back and saying, hey, you're spending, let's say, $200 a month on this professional membership. Tell me what you're getting out of this. And I have this whole, so-and-so joined and they get prospects and clients from there. And so I'll turn around and ask them, well, how many clients are you getting out of there? And they said, well, of the 2 years I paid $200 a month, 0.
Ooh.
They've got 0 clients. So I said, from that I kind of pushed back. I said, well, tell me who your ideal client is and where they're hanging out. And what kind of services are you offering them? And when I start asking those questions, because I'm really good at just kind of peeling back the layer, right? Like it's really like get at the core at who are you trying to serve? What do they need? And one client of mine, I told them the types of customers that need your services are not at this membership at this group.
Sure.
I said the people at this group, they're already good at what you're offering, so they're not going to need your services, right? So they did. I actually had one of the 2 people that I talked to about it cancel their membership, and they're spending their money elsewhere, right? And making sure that they're actually meeting people that actually need their skills. So I mean, the impact for that, being able to do that, I think it's huge.
Massive.
Because a lot of people don't understand or don't like the numbers. They don't like budgeting. I think there's also a misnomer about the word budget. People cringe and think, oh, it's restrictive. It's got, I'm not going to be able to spend money on the things that I want. And I help clients flip that around and understand the budget helps you be able to spend more money on where you want to spend, where you want to spend your time and money. So yeah, absolutely. That's, I love the analyzing and just kind of helping people realize that they don't need to be spending money on certain things, and watch them become profitable, and watch the relief, like watch the stress kind of disappear from them when they start realizing, oh, I'm in charge. I can actually become profitable and make this business a success.
And you cannot do that while you're making PDF forms to send out to your clients.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It's just, it's funny. It's something I've heard somebody else, one of my colleagues, coins it the $10 task, right? It's like the things that people have this misnomer. They think, oh, well, I don't want to do this because I don't want to hire somebody to do it because I could just do it myself. But you have to think about how much money can you be making if you're out there 1 hour of your time working with a client versus you spending that 1 hour doing these tedious tasks, the ones that you're not good at or ones that you should be already outsourcing.
Sure. So let's fast forward to your experience with Virtual Valley. And I guess this might turn into more of a feedback session. But how did you first find out about Virtual Valley?
Great question. I took a business coaching class earlier in this year, and the business coach was the one that actually walked through this kind of yield per hour. One of the calculations he goes through, and it's very much how much do you need to be making, and here's how much that you need to be not be spending time on these lower end tasks. And so when people ask, we ask them, well, where do you find your virtual assistants? And he recommended Virtual Valley.
Who was this business coach?
So his name is Bill Davis. He's the owner of Team Nimbus here in North Carolina.
Yes, I do. I know Bill. He was one of our early users. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm going to have to thank him.
Yeah, so one of my he was my business coach as well as also a mentor. So.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And so then you came over to Virtual Valley, and what I'd love an honest answer to this question. Out of the whole experience, so hiring, paying, working with the virtual assistant, how do you think it could be improved?
Great question.
Sorry to put you on the spot here.
I think that honestly, what you guys offered, what Zandro offered, which I don't think is clear online, is that when I signed up, I remember Zandro reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit what you need? Maybe I can give you recommendations of people that because he knows everybody in the staff, and he's like, maybe I could recommend a couple people to you directly." So I actually think that if that might also be something that if it's a little bit more clear on the website, that maybe where to fear from people who are first-time users or hiring virtual assistants for the first time and say, oh, there's someone that's going to potentially help me through this process.
Yeah.
Because I will say that actually made the biggest difference because, I think what makes you guys different than, say, Upwork, because I have hired people off Upwork as well, another virtual freelancer site, is that Zandra had that personal touch. Like, he reached out to me and emailed me and said, "Hey, can you tell me what you need?" And then he emailed back right away. He said, "Hey, let me take a day. I'm going to go through the list, and I'm going to give you a couple names." And I think that made the biggest difference, honestly. And I did.
Yeah.
I hired one of the virtual assistants that he had recommended.
That's very interesting. I think that's, I don't know why we didn't put that on the site.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like the main call to action on the site is actually just send an email to Vandro with your requirements.
Yeah, I think that's a differentiator for you guys, because that honestly makes you guys different than, say, a big site, freelancer site like Upwork.
Sure. Awesome. Okay. And then after that, the sort of net result of you using a virtual virtual assistant, I know you mentioned it in your email to us and it made us feel really amazing, but if you could very briefly describe that would be really cool.
Yeah, of course. So when I decided to hire my VA from you guys, I think I hired him in August of August, actually a couple months ago. And I said, "Hey, I've got an upcoming book, my first book. I'm not good at social media. I really need your help to get me out there, get my name out there, get followers, get people engaged, so that on my day of launch, that people know me. And so when I start putting out social media that my book is available, that people, who have known me and have followed me, are going to be, more open to actually buying the book."
Mm-hmm.
And so I hired the VA, and he ended up helping me on Facebook business as well as Twitter. So one of the things I wanted to share was, well, one, he also was fantastic. I'm doing social media images. That was another thing that I would spend hours on. Like, I would literally go and like an hour later, I'm like still searching for a perfect image. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something wrong here. So so I'm so glad my VA took care of that for me.
Sure.
So what I'll share with you, before I started with him, when I started my book process, I captured my stats, and I had 74 likes on Facebook on my Facebook business page, and I had 51 followers on Twitter, and on LinkedIn I had 296 connections.
Okay.
So, it was something where it was okay. I've been in business for about a year, so that was okay, but not great. Like, I needed to get my numbers up. So working with the VA, he ended up getting my Facebook business page to almost double, so 115 likes, with a lot of engagement. I mean, the increase, there's, I think, something ridiculous one day I saw was up 140% engagement. So that was huge.
Yeah.
And then Twitter going from 51 followers to 525 followers yesterday.
Thank you for the stats.
Huge, yes. And then LinkedIn has 339 connections.
Awesome.
So my main followers are on Twitter, which my VA knew. So I mean, to go from 51 followers to now 525 followers in less than 3 months, I think that's huge.
That's solid.
Yeah, so I could not have done it without my VA, and that made a big difference on my launch day. So my launch day, we launched my book on November 1st, and we were trying to get as many people to buy on the first day because there's a lot of ranking behind it, and the more people that buy on the first day, there's more visibility, there's more, and I ended up making Amazon #1 and Amazon bestseller status in 3 different categories.
Oh,
it's huge. I even have a screenshot. I think my book was also #1 in hot new releases and starting a new business category.
Sure.
And my book was #1 over Damon John from Shark Tank. So I have a screenshot of that. I'm like, awesome! I can tell everybody my book was right next to #1 place.
Send that screenshot over. I'll put it in the blog post below.
Awesome, I will.
Sylvia, this has been awesome. It was very interesting, to hear the things that you are good at and how you've managed to not do the things that you're not, but then also, of course, how you sort of actually put that into action and experienced an awesome result from it. Yeah. So I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing this with us. And of course, we're going to link to your book and we'll put that image down below. But where else, we know you're on Twitter, but where else can people come and interact with you and ask you questions about their finances?
Sure. Actually, I want to also point out that in my book, I also do, in one of the chapters, actually talk about hiring a VA.
Oh, fantastic. so people can learn actually how you did it
Yes,
in the book. Awesome.
So LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. So Sylvia Inks on LinkedIn. Twitter, my Twitter is at SMI Financial.
Sure.
And my company website is smifinancialcoaching.com. And my book website is smallbusinessfinancebook.com.
Awesome. We'll put all those links below so people can just click and go through. Sylvia, thank you so much for your time today and also for trusting and using our platform.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tom. I had such a great time on this. I tell everybody that they absolutely, if they want to grow their business, they need to hire a VA. So thank you for creating the company.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Sylvia.